Peace and blessings, community. We are officially at the last week of the Divine Feminine versus Divine Masculine podcast episode that I have been doing with me and my sister Malvina. I'm super excited that you are joining me on this journey because it's been a journey. Switching from divine feminine to divine masculine, from divine masculine into divine feminine, and trying to find our balance sometimes as women can be difficult. And so I really enjoyed this episode that I did with Mal, and I felt like, through the WOMBVERSATION journey that I've been having with the collective and the divine feminine conversations that we've been having, like through the previous WOMBVERSATION episodes. If you have not gotten a chance to go check them out, make sure you go check them out. But the conversations that we've been having on the WOMBVERSATION are really touching the essence of who we are as women through WOMBVERSATION, having that communication with our womb, setting that time apart away from the world, to be able to sit down and really just ground ourselves and center ourselves and talk to that essence that's inside of us and our higher selves and the Most High God. Like, it's just a lot. And so I feel like now more than ever, especially going into the energy of the fall and into the energy of winter, there is no better time than the present right now in this moment to really be discussing what it's like to be able to be in divine feminine energy and manifest from our feminine energy versus the masculine energy of always having to do or always having to push or always having to hustle, and understanding what it's like to be able and mastering what it's like to be able to manifest from our true essence as women. So I hope that you have been enjoying this series. Please, down in the comment box below, comment, like, what do y'all think? How have y'all been dealing with divine feminine versus divine masculine in your relationships, in your connections, in your job, in your businesses? What things have you been struggling with? Share it with us because we want to hear it. If you have not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and push the notification bell so you can be updated each and every time I upload a brand new video and WOMBVERSATION episode. All right, I love y'all. Peace. Peace and blessings, collective. It is Hadida. We are in our fourth week of a series on divine masculine and divine feminine. I have my good sis Malvina here. She is joining us because she came up with the excellent idea for us to bring this topic to the community and for us to discuss our journeys thus far in finding our divine masculine counterparts. And this has been a fun series. We've talked about a lot of the struggles that we have encountered on our journey towards finding our divine mate, and also some of, the ideology that people have surrounding it, and even how to try to combat when the haters come and we don't know how to directly deal with situation, especially when the people is our mother, our father, our friend, our sister, our brother. Like, it's difficult when we get those negative comments towards us because they don't understand what we are going through. So this week, we're going to close out the segment and just kind of rehash our journeys as divine feminine, finding our divine masculine mates. And it's really funny because both Mal and I have shared the experience of being divine feminine, but because of where we were in our lives, we never had a problem with picking up the divine masculine role and doing what we had to do. So the idea that now we have found that divine masculine to come in and balance out the scale, it's a new territory for us. It's a new place, a new space that we're in, and reminding ourselves to be able to stay okay with being feminine. I know it's a journey for me, and Mal has shared that it's been a learning process for her as well. So without further ado, I'm going to shut up so Mal can talk. But peace, Mal. Thank you for coming.
So, hello everyone. It definitely has been a journey so far in many different aspects, because as being a single woman for so long and having to take up the role of the masculine energy just to get things done and be a go-getter and being, I don't like to use the word aggressive, but I mean just to be assertive with what you want and being able to speak it out loud, and knowing how to switch it on and off has been a little bit of a struggle. right? Because it always seems like someone is looking to challenge you for something. They're looking to challenge you to see like, oh, does she got the balls to do whatever she wants to do? Is she going, is she gonna step back if I bark at her or whatever? And it will throw it at you. And that's men, that's women. It doesn't matter your demographic. People will try, and we always have to at this stage, since I've tapped into more of the divine feminine than stepping back a little bit from the divine masculine, it is also important to have that balance. The balance is really important to know which one needs to come forward and which one needs to take a little bit of a back seat. And it is a challenge, right? Like there are moments where you just feel like I'm gonna just go and do what the hell I need to do, and everybody needs to move out of my way. And it doesn't always need to be like that. Sometimes you don't need to be as aggressive. You need to be assertive, but not as aggressive as maybe the divine masculine would be, and see things from a different perspective and maybe bring a little bit of grace, a little bit of softness in order to be the honey to the bees.
Yes, I
Let
was
the bees
just thinking literally the word honey. I was just thinking literally the word honey. You was like
be
the
the
honey to the
honey to
bees.
the bees and let the bees just swarm, right? Because that's what happens. We don't realize though that we have it, but we don't really we don't embrace it. Like I always had this thing where people will gravitate to me. They come and they talk to me, especially men, especially Caribbean men. They come and they want to talk and they want to, they want to buy you things and buy you drinks and buy you food and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. No, I'm okay. Now I'm like, okay, that's fine. Okay. And I get what I want, right? I put it out there and I'm just like, yeah, I'm thinking about this project and I'm kind of like leaning towards this area. And then you get the helpful people. You get the opportunities, you get the finances that you need. And you're not trying to be a damsel in distress, but you do want to be that sometimes. Because that's the bees to the honey, right?
Wait, you covering too many major
Oh,
points
I'm
in like
sorry.
3 seconds.
Okay.
Because
All right.
I'm trying to hold everything. So you mentioned about the honey and the bees. You mentioned
Yes.
about the concept of the damsel in distress, even though we really aren't, but learning how to play that,
Yes.
and being vulnerable sometime in that, because that's a vulnerability. And then you also mentioned, so let me go back real quick. So don't forget those 2 points. But
Okay.
so real quick, you mentioned, yes.
The divine, the feminine really goes with how she feels because she's in the 5D. Where the divine masculine isn't really in the 3D. They are really just focused on the material. They're really focused on the aesthetics and what it looks like. And we go with what it feels like. We go with you know, what do you kind of see outside of all of the fluff
Right.
and the dazzling effects and
I know what it was.
okay,
Do
come on.
you think that society makes us makes women be pushed into divine masculine mentality? Because we're constantly being asked to show and prove who we are. We're
Yeah.
constantly being made to like step up to the plate. We're constantly being told like, oh, you aren't good enough as men. We're constantly being like pushed to the back burner. Like even in the workforce, they get paid more than us. You know what I mean? Like, don't let you be a black woman in a predominantly male industry. You are going to be the last person on the totem pole as far as pay wage. So it's just like, does society kind of breed these masculine, empowered women that feel like they got to be coming from push and strive and conquer and all those kind of heavy duty words that are masculine based energy in order for them to be somebody in general society from day to day?
Let me say this first and foremost. I think this dates back to the slavery days, where the men were stripped of a lot of things, and the women had to come in and just like kind of just do everything, be the head of the household for the most part, take care of the babies, take care of the field work, take care of other people's babies and other people's families, and our men were stripped of a lot of their masculinity, their role in the family, their household, their wife, their children, their sense of, I don't want to say responsibility, but their sense of pride, right? So it stems from that. And then here we are right now. Social media also plays a big part in that. And I feel like women just have been stripped down for so long. It's kind of just like all we know, right? It's kind of just all we know. Like sometimes, and I'm not saying that this is the case right now, because I see a lot of men stepping up to the plate and like, okay, I want to take care of my kids. I want to take care of the home. You know, I want to be married. They're actually starting to learn. They're starting to come in their own into their own awakening and learn that, you know, they want a better life. They want a family. They want a home. They want to build careers, and they want to build, you know, their family life, or, you know, business, or whatever it is with their divine counterpart, right? But for so long, that hasn't been the case. We've been told, especially for the men and the women, we've been told, like, okay, you need to take care of the household. How are you going to figure it out? You're going to do it on your own. You know what I'm saying? And then you're like, okay, so you need to be educated. So you got to step up to the plate and you got to get your education. You got to step up to the plate and take care of your home. You got to step up to the plate and take care of your children. And then there's other little things outside of that too, where it's like, okay, forget about yourself and worry about getting that money. Everybody's worried about getting that bag, getting that money. And I do, for I say I will take ownership in my what I have done over the years too, where I'm just like, I'm worried about the money. I'm chasing the bag. Where now I know, yeah, I'm still chasing the bag, but I'm also thinking about work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that feel like to be okay with saying, okay, you know what, I still want to have a family, and I want to have a husband, and I want to, you know, have that role and still be able to make some, you know, make sure that we bring our money together and put it on the table and do things together, right? A lot of times we didn't have that. Our parents, for the most part, I mean, I can't speak, well, not, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of the women in my family, they had to step up to the plate because they were the breadwinners. They were the ones, for the most part, that were just like, okay, we're educated, we're out here being go-getters, and we're going to get whatever we need to get so we can make the money to take care of our children. And we were told, for the most part, like, oh, you know what, you don't need a man to do this, that, and the third. You don't need to be married. Leave him. You don't need that. And it's just like, okay, like, this is what you hear. This is what you're around. And then therefore that's what you put out to the world. Like, I don't need this. I don't need you. I don't need it. And you tough. You have like a tough exterior, and that's what you're showing to the world, where really and truly that's not what you want. You want to be married. You want to have
So
children. You want to have.
I agree with some aspects of what you said, but then there's something that I feel like, so I feel like it did happen with slavery. I feel like it did originate at those times. I feel like, or directly after that, even going into like right after civil rights movement type time, where welfare was introduced to the black family, and in order for you to get welfare, there could not be a man in the home. So now that meant that even after we had went through the segregation, and we triumphed over that, even though we had went through the slavery and we got through that, we were now faced with, okay, we are finally back together as a family unit, and now I'm poor, my husband's poor, my children are poor, I need government assistance. And they
Mm-hmm.
gave us government assistance in exchange for the fact that we were not going to have a man in our home. If there was a man in our home, we were not allowed to be able to get the assistance. So that was the first thing that I think did that. And from that stemmed the psychology of, okay, well, now he's not going to be around. How am I going to be able to make it? And it created the perfect scenario for a broken down community, in that
Mm-hmm.
women were left raising children by themselves. And even still today, in a world where that is no longer the must in order for you to be able to get public assistance, we find ourselves still pushing men out of the door just off of that's our norm. But what I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily agree with, what was stated, or maybe it wasn't meant to be said like that, but that's how it sounded, was that men are just now starting to come to, I don't want to say just now, but coming to the realization, I feel like we've been had stand up as men in our communities. We've been had men who were breadwinners, who were providers, who were there in a community. The problem is when you have a strong-minded woman getting in touch with a man who knows he's a man and who don't take whatever from you, okay, you're going to get a clash because she's going to come with her energy of, well, I'm doing this, I'm a boss, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, then she gets into the mindset of, well, I don't need you anyway, because that's what we've been told. You're an independent woman, you can do it yourself, you don't have to have no man provided for you. Why would you want a man? What are you, weak? You ain't weak, get up. You know what I mean? Like all these different things. And that's why I said about society, how they play their role, because if we didn't constantly have all these million and one songs coming out about being an independent woman and how men don't want no, woman that need him and stuff like that, like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's the only one that's supposed to be providing, but you damn sure got to lift your weight. And so I'm looking for somebody, or I was at that time looking for somebody who can match my intensity. It wasn't even so much about you having to have, and we had talked about this, I think, in week 2, physically having the same amount of money
Yes.
as me.
Yes.
Having the same amount of money, the same amount of research, the same amount of whatever. You had to have the same amount of go-getterness that I
And drive.
had. You had to have,
Yes.
yes, that's what I was about to say. You had to have the same amount of drive and the same amount of ambition and the same amount of at least matching my intensity. Because if we not physically sitting in front of $1,000,001 right now, that doesn't mean that we aren't going to be able to be okay. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because we're both striving towards something. So I feel like there's been men who wanted to stand up, but as women who are strong-minded, who's been raised in these situations where we've been taught that, men are important, but they important over there, not right here. It breeds this perfect mindset of, okay, well, I gotta, be what he isn't, not even allowing him to show and prove who he really is. It's like, we automatically discarded that. And I think that that's something that we really struggle with. I know specifically women in the Black community struggle with that. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to be seen as weak, and we also don't want to be seen as vulnerable. It's hard to be vulnerable. Being with
Yes.
divine feminine, divine masculine counterparts requires you to stay in a place of vulnerability. And if
Yes.
you aren't able to be in vulnerable skin, you might as well chalk up the experience right now. It's going
It's
to
so true.
always call you to the table. It's going to always call you to like center field, to show up and to be vulnerable in this present moment. And you're going to be like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
And I will say to you that that was a struggle for real. Like in the beginning with my divine counterpart, it was a struggle. Like he used to call me Iron Maiden. That was his nickname for me, was the Iron Maiden. Like I would like I'm like he would be asking me questions and getting passionate and just kind of just like all of these different feelings, and I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? I don't get it. And then like he's looking at me like, are you serious right now? Like, so you're not gonna feel anything? Like you like it would just be like it was a struggle for me to just like say, okay, like I feel this kind of way and not just be like, you know what, if you don't want to deal with it, you don't have to deal with it. You can go, bye. Like it was like a long road just getting to that point of, you know what, I'm upset that you said XYZ, and then being able to have that conversation piece after that. And just like dive into feelings and kind of just be vulnerable, like just cry if I wanted to, be upset, be passionate, be like, okay, like, okay, let's talk about this further some more, and just really get to the nitty gritty and the ground level of everything. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
So it wasn't a struggle for me with who I'm with right now with this divine mate. But my ex-husband, it was a struggle because I can distinctly remember him saying, like, it's like I'm talking to a brick wall. Like talking to you was like talking to a brick wall, because I would not allow the emotion to rise to the top. It's like, emotion for what? I have to be at this place where I gotta be strong, where I gotta be able to handle a certain amount of stuff, and vulnerability and even crying and letting down your walls and doing all that kind of shadow work that they like to call it makes you like let down walls that now can be penetrated. Because let's just be real about it, the reason why we don't want to be vulnerable is because we don't want to be hurt again. So we
Mm-hmm.
got to make sure that we're not carrying the same back past luggage from previous relationships into our current situations, and essentially chasing off the divine counterpart that was sent to us. You know what I mean? Because that's so easy to do if we stay in our craft.
Listen.
Okay, so you had said something about honey, and you had started talking about, like, yes, because I'm coming back through all of these. I mentioned the honey, about how you can attract honey, and I feel like when you get into your honey essence, and I love this topic because we did a whole like month about Oshun, inside the
Yes.
red tent, and sacred sexuality. The essence of the honey is that sweetness. So when I'm having conversations that I would normally want to just be able to bite off my divine masculine head, okay, I always ask myself, what would I say with my wisdom?
Mm-hmm.
Not from what I like the first thing you want to say out your mouth. Cause that thing, I'm very good at cutting with my tongue. I know that. That's a strength of mine. I'm gonna call it a strength and not a weakness. It's a strength of mine. But I've learned how to not cut, not lash people with my tongue, and to take a moment to reflect. And I think that reflection process is really important, especially when you're dealing with divine masculine and divine feminine, because
Mm-hmm.
both of y'all are in a space of vulnerability, essentially, in order for y'all to even realize who y'all are to each other. And so,
Mm-hmm.
since you know that this person is divine, after you've done the work and you've gotten to the place where you realize this is a divine masculine, this isn't just another fluke or whatever, or a person coming, a wolf dressed up in sheep's clothing. It's like, okay, I know that you are, so that means you aren't here to hurt me, you're here to help me to get
Right.
further on, yes, on
Mm-hmm.
along on my path, and to grow beyond where I am right now. But it's difficult, though, obviously, coming from wisdom, when they working your nerves. So like, what's something what's something that you suggest, or what's some ways that you use your honey in your relationship?
So, I mean, I do my deep breathing. When I get to that point, he knows when I get to that point, let me just take a little bit of a step back and he'll start to heal, right? But I'm trying to think for the most part because sometimes it catches you off guard because you're deep into the conversation piece and maybe the person it just kind of like you know what so and so so and so and then you're like you start. I had to like learn how to just not react.
Mm,
I don't even know. I'm trying to really remember honestly where I'm at with that because I think that's sometimes still something that I do struggle with. Because I'm also one of those people that is quick with the mouth. And sometimes I got to fight. But I don't know. I still try to find balance with that. That's still a little bit of I don't like to say it's a struggle, but that is something that I still work on for myself, just really trying to not really hold back, but find a way to be more diplomatic with my approach
mm-hmm.
with certain topics. And then it depends on who it is too. If I can even cut it off before it even gets to me energetically, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. If I gotta take a step back and be quiet because I'm feeling like if I feel like my spirit is a little heavy, I will take a moment and just say, not tonight, not tonight, or not at all. Because I've had some people over the last couple of that have just been like, they try you. They try your
Mm-hmm.
nerves. They going all around the world. They saying this and they saying that. And you say, you know what? I'm not about to let you in my energy because I'm too at peace to be like, but I can take it there if I really want to take it there and tell you about your mother. But I'm not. So I would, I try to just cut it off before, like energetically, before it even comes near to me. Honestly, even in relationships with my mate, I'm just kind of just like, I don't know. I guess because we've gotten to that place of being able to understand each other and knowing how to speak to each other too, because that's a thing. Knowing how to speak to each other and knowing what could possibly rub each other the wrong way,
That's what I was about to
we
say.
have
Not
been able
pushing
to
those buttons that you know is going to
buttons.
drive them crazy. Even though you be itching to push it, boy. You be itching.
You find a different way to approach it. You understand what I'm saying? If you give each other a moment to just think and just breathe versus to react, right? You'll be better off. You'll be better off. I mean, even if it's taking a moment away, acting like the phone got cut off, where you really hung up on it, banged on it.
You ain't right.
Babe, just reconnecting. I'm gonna call you back.
Oh wait, I can't hear you. Wait,
I
my
can't hear
signal,
you.
my
It
signal.
just broke up. Oh my god, I'm so over this. Sometimes it'll be those moments where you just
Oh
need to
my
see,
God. Don't be
take a step
teaching our
away.
folks that, Mal.
Sometimes, no, sometimes it's just like that though. Just to avoid, not to avoid the conversation, but just to take a moment to just breathe
Absolutely.
and find a more diplomatic approach to a conversation.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I'm still working on that. But I can say that that's something that has been very helpful for me. But just taking a step back and just saying, okay, hold on, let me just find a better way to say this. What I'm
Hmm.
about to tell you right now. But I mean, now I don't really hold back what I'm gonna say. I just find a better way to say it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had I
It's
learned
not
how
so
to do
much
that.
not being able to say what's on your mind. It's
Yeah,
just not saying it to the way that you know that you're getting ready to go into a direction of damage that you're not going to be able to replace later on. Or repair, I should say, later on. So as we're
exactly.
as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about like how you can use your honey in the times where you're pissed off, but also the concept of using your honey when you ain't pissed off. And that goes into that damsel of distress that you brought up, energy. The whole idea that like, okay, I know that if I go and I say it and whatever, like I know what times to approach what situations, how what tones to use in my voice and how to allow my tones and my influxes and my perfume and all that kind of stuff to be able to work towards my benefit.
Yeah.
Just knowing how to work it all into the equation. And that divine feminine looks like a woman that's into herself. I think that too much, and I don't want to say into ourselves in a selfish way, but I think that too much as women, we're constantly putting our focus on what is our mate like about us, or what does other people say about us, or like, is my hair cute, or like, are they going to notice this about me? But what about like what you notice about you? So being able to be into yourself, like you keeping yourself up, you caring about yourself makes a certain level of attractiveness to your mate. And it makes your honey naturally just makes your pores just drip of honey. And it's like it lures them in. And having that balance, between self and mate is important because it's so easy that when you are with your divine counterpart and y'all are rhythmically moving through life, it's easy to lose yourself. It's easy to lose your self identity and relationship in general. But definitely when you wrapped up in a person and then you have situations like my mom, she lost my dad 2 years ago. And I think I mentioned this in one of the other episodes that they have been married for 37 years. So the concept of being with somebody after all these years of living together and being together, and that's all you know. When my father transitioned, I asked her, "So do you know who you are?" And she stopped and was like, She had to think about it. She came back to me 2 days later, and her response was, "Yeah, I know who I am. I'm the same person I was when I was with your dad, just by myself." And I said, "Okay." Because it's something when I listen to some of her widow friends talk, they're completely lost
Mm-hmm.
when their mate transitions. They're completely lost. It's like because you have found that union that like intertwines perfectly. So now when
Yeah.
that person isn't there anymore, and they've transitioned on, and you left in this earth plane by yourself, it's like, where do I go? Who am I? How
Yes.
do I live without this person? How do I keep going on? And it's a very dangerous, like, slippery slope when you get into that area, and it's scary, to be quite honest. It's something
So
that people don't talk about a lot, but it's there.
really don't. But I have to say, where I am right now in my journey, because we are not apart, it forces me to look at where I am, where I've come from, and what do I want for myself too. Like, I already kind of energetically know that even though me and my husband, we will be in the same space, there will be times where we will not be in the same space physically, but in the same space energetically, and just kind of like in a love space, right? And there are going to be times where I'll have to travel the world, or he has to travel the world for whatever reason, and we're not always going to be physically together. I recognize that now. So that now, look, I'm looking at myself like, okay, what do I like? What do I like? What are the crafts that I want to get into? Do I want to go back in dancing? Do I want to paint? Do I want to make candles? Do I like this? Do I like to? It's making me really, even before him, even before we got married, before we even really met, I was already kind of like, I think I want to go back and try dance again. I think I want to do this again. I had a thing about this before, and I think I want to get back into it. It makes you want to do that. And I think that is very healthy. And that's part of the self love and the self care. And is to tap into the things that
You
drive
love
us,
outside of
that we
them.
love outside of them.
Yes.
And that's
Because
really important to keep for
And
yourself.
that, and that's something that a lot of people don't have. When they
Mhm.
find a divine counterpart like that, they lose that aspect of themselves.
Yes.
One thing that my mom and my dad always had that I admired about their relationship was the ability to live separately but still intertwined.
Fine.
My
Yes.
dad had his interests, his life, his fun, his friends. My mom had her interests, her life, her friends, and then they had friends that they shared together. They had
Hmm.
couple things that they did together. They traveled together. They did all kind of stuff dealing with being together, but they didn't have to be together every day, every second,
24/7.
every
Yes.
minute in order for them to know that the other person loved them. And that's
Yes.
actually unhealthy. And I think that when we get to a place where we find ourselves needing to be with our mate 24/7 like that, it's
Yes.
unhealthy, and
Yeah.
it creates a codependency that is not what it's supposed to be. We are supposed to be able to exist on our own. And so that's why a lot of her friends, and even some of those love stories you hear where people have been married 50, 60, 70 years together, and then when their mate dies, they die shortly after, if not the same day. It's
Hmm.
because to live here in this earth plane in my own body, in my own presence, without me being connected to what was my life source, now that I am codependent upon you,
Hmm.
literally takes my life force away. I literally don't know what to do. And it's so difficult. I can only imagine after being with somebody for so many years. But I think that one way to be able to balance that partially is to be able to maintain yourself and
Yeah.
be yourself outside of just what you are connected to with your mate. And that doesn't necessarily have to be you physically doing something, but remembering aspects of things that you like, even if it's just, going to the spa or doing something by yourself every once in a while. And I've had, I know you want to say something. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make this real quick. I've had friends who be like, oh, I don't want to I since I've married so and so, I don't want to, spend time apart from them. We haven't spent no time apart, and I don't want to. And it's like, after a while, you're gonna be suffocated. Like nobody can spend every waking moment, every working second. And if that is your situation in your case, what are you afraid of? That means that you have a level of trust issue as well. Because if you got to keep me in your sight 24/7 in order for you to be able to function, in order for you to be able to say that I'm able to function, that means that you don't trust me as a person because you need to keep an eye on me. I feel like you don't trust me if I got to be here, you got to be here 24/7 looking at my face.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people look at relationships as that's my mate and we're supposed to spend all the time, all times together, right? Even outside of work, we're calling each other. Like he's at work, I'm at work. We're calling each other on break. We're like every minute, and I think it's cool maybe in the beginning, but then after a time, it's just kind of like okay, like it does get boring and it gets suffocating. I think that is one of the reasons, or one thing that happened with my ex. So I was with him for 9 years, almost. It would have been 10 by the time we broke up. It would have been 10, and it was cool in the beginning. It was cool in between, but then it started to kind of get like it was outside interference, and this one saying this, and then spending time with this one and that one, and then they didn't want to tell you about it, and then it became secrets, and then it just became like a thing, a codependency. You're afraid to let go, or you're ready to just be like bye, and then it's just like, oh no, other person doesn't want to let go, and it just becomes like really just unhealthy, because then you get to a place like I don't trust them, but why don't you
Hmm.
trust them?
And you can't even
And you
identify a
can't even
reason.
identify why, right? um and that is a thing. I remember there were times that, and it was cool, and I think what happens is that people outside of your relationship, they start to judge it. There were times that I could remember that sometimes I was just annoyed or over it or whatever. Or he would go on vacation on his own with his friends, or I would go hang out with my friends. And it was fine with us. But then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, why would you go away by yourself? Why you let him go away by himself? Why you let him do this? Why are you doing that? Like how you go to Dominican Republic by yourself? How you let him go to Dominican? And it's just like I trust myself to go to Dominican Republic. But then you start to question it, like, wait a second, I see XYZ doing this, maybe he's doing it too. Oh, his friend is doing this, or maybe he's doing it too. Or she's doing her friend is doing this, maybe she's doing it too, and it just becomes, it unravels. And if you're not careful, you would let outside influences also infiltrate your relationship. That really wasn't that bad. Make it look like it's that bad because that's not what they do. But now I'm realizing, you know, even it just didn't right. I don't know, it was really the I think at first it was yes, that should have been my end all be all, but then it didn't work out that way. And I'm fine with that too. But I think what happened is that you learn from these experiences what to do and what not to do moving forward. What's good for you is not gonna always be good for somebody else. If it works for you and you have that trust with each other, that should be the only thing that really matters. The outside influences, we don't know what goes on in their household. Everybody is on top of each other or whatever, whatever, whatever. That's their business. That has nothing to do with your relationship. That has nothing to do with you as in yourself. That has nothing to do with your trust issues, or if you don't have trust issues or whatever. That's something to you. All of your relationships are learning experiences. It's
Hmm.
not a loss. It's just a learning experience. It's you're diverted into something else, right? You know what to do and what not to do moving forward into, or the red flags and to call the red flags as you see them. And if it's really not a red flag, it's like, okay, still have that conversation. Communication and open communication is a thing for people. That should be so important in every relationship, is to have that open dialogue. Like, okay, I'm really not feeling this. I don't really like it. And it's okay. It's
Hmm.
okay to do that too.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's it's a tricky thing that
It is.
the outside influences can mess you up if you're not strong in your relationship and strong in
Hmm.
yourself and in your mind. It can definitely trip you up.
Because it's like when we were talking last week and we were talking about how most of the time when you get with divine masculine or divine feminine counterparts, there's some kind of extenuating circumstance, like when the same kind of situation is when you're in twin flame relationships. You usually have to go through some major hurdle and overcome that to be together. So either it's going to be an age difference, or it's going to be a nationality difference, or it's going to be, uh, I don't know, maybe they got five children,
Political
you know what I
distance
mean? Maybe
or
they're
yeah.
taking care of a
Hmm.
family member. Like they got all these different things because the whole idea is that you have gone through a strenuous journey to become the person you are. He has gone
Hmm.
through a strenuous journey to become the person he is. And now both of y'all have developed into who y'all are to join together. This is
Hmm.
not like you meeting somebody. It's very rare that you meet somebody like at 15, they're your divine, counterpart, and you're going to be together for the rest of your life, happily ever after. That's not always. I've heard of it like maybe once or twice that high school sweethearts actually stayed together and are still married, but it's not the majority of what you hear, which means that you're going to be experiencing life and going through hurdles and picking up all kind of stuff, and I'm going to be going through life and picking up all kind of stuff and going over hurdles and figuring out how to be a single mom or whatever my thing is. And now we got to come together and try to live cohesively despite all of those things that have become baggage from the past, and not project that onto the mate that we're in front of, and realize, who this person is. So I think that we should
There's
just like.
also there's also a mirror aspect because I feel like sometimes there are also times where you might meet a person that kind of mirrors you in a way, like
Oh,
shows
absolutely.
you that person that you were before through some of the actions. And it's kind of just like, well, what are you about to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to combat this? Are we going to take the same approach? That might be a karmic cycle, but it's like kind of, are we going to take the same approach? Or, are we going to turn this into something different? Because that karmic relationship, maybe it could be new, can turn into somebody that is your soulmate, but it's because they're making you see things from a different perspective, or see things that the things that you have already done. And how are you going to go at it the same way, or are you going to change your perspective?
When your karmatic becomes your divine counterpart or transitions into that, that means that he or she has done extensive amount of work, and you have
Yes.
done extensive amount of shadow work in order to get to that place.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of times we throw in a towel on relationships before we get a chance to do that extensive amount of work. Not because we're not interested in the person, but simply because that person does not realize that they are ultimately supposed to be our divine counterpart. And so basically the most high universe spirit, whatever you believe in, kind of ushers in another option, because don't think that you only got one person in this whole entire
Oh
world that's
no.
going to be a divine counterpart. So it's kind of like if you weren't ready to step up to the plate and do the work now,
You
you
gonna
move on.
push out
You're going
the
to
way.
move on, and another person is going to be prepared for you because they have to live their life journey and their struggle themselves. I've been to that scenario recently, actually, where I knew that someone had the potential, if they got themselves together, to be able to be that. But to be able to be that meant that they had to do a whole lot of work that they weren't willing to do at the time. So that person quickly got moved out, and somebody spirit brought somebody else in, and not only brought the other person in, but fully developed that person
Hmm.
to meet where the caliber of what I needed. It transformed every aspect of both of us to be able to make us perfectly together in the space that we're in now. And it's deep how that happens. It's kind of like, oh, okay, well, we ain't ready to, shape up, got to ship out, and that's pretty much what it becomes. But that mirror image concept is definitely real. I mean, in general, we attract to ourselves what we are. The
Yes.
thing that we normally hate in about somebody or irritates us to the core about somebody else is literally the thing that we need to work on about ourselves. You
Yes.
know, um, and that's the hard part, being able to reflect and see that, see that concept. Is there anything else that you want to bring up in this series that you feel like we didn't talk about?
Um, the aspect of just getting into your vulnerability,
That's key.
that's key. That's really key. I know for me, that is the honey to the bees, for sure. Being able to say, you know what, I can't lift that box, or like, okay, yeah, I might have gotten it in the truck, but I can't get it up the stairs. And being able to ask for help without struggling to deal with a dress, this, that, and the third, and a box that's heavy, and just saying, can you do me a favor? Can you help me take this upstairs? And just be like, where normally I'd be like, I can lift it myself and strain my whole entire body just to get it from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
That just that little tidbit, I mean, it could take you a long way. The way how you talk to people, the way how you talk to a man is just like the way how you present yourself, and not just in look, but just kind of like with your words. It says a lot about you. To be able to just kind of like ask for what you need. Or sometimes not even really asking for what you need, it's just presented to you. I
Mm-hmm.
remember one time going in church and I had to get a bottle of water for something, and the bishop of the church says to me, "Oh, don't worry about it. I have a big bottle behind the pulpit you can have, but don't tell anybody because that particular water is a special water, and anybody that gets that water, it gets the blessing, and people will want to fight you for that water." And I was like, "Okay, thank you," because I was trying to figure out how I was going to get this water. And not that I was trying to be kind of, like being manipulative about it, but I needed water. And I was like, how am I going to get this water tonight in order to do what I need to do? Right. And it's just kind of just like, he just is like, no, I have a big bottle of water. You can have this water. Fine. How you present yourself, like how you just bring your full self, not a mask, not somebody
Mm-hmm.
else, your full self to the table, just as you are, and be vulnerable and just be open and be grounded to have like that balance, man. That balance, it shows itself. It's like a light that beams. It's like a light that beams, and it just, people see it. They
Mm-hmm.
know when it's fake and they know when it's real.
Mm-hmm.
They know when it's
Absolutely.
fake and they know when it's real. So just, I would like for us to be more mindful of how we present ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
with with no masks, no extras. Just present yourself. Like, just be yourself and present yourself. If you're a fiery soul, you're just gonna be a fiery soul. It is what it is, right? Like, we all have like little things about ourselves that might be quirky, or it might be sensual, it might be whatever, but you just present yourself to the table. Like, here I am. This is just me. Like, it is what it is, and it's okay to be that way. It's
Mm-hmm.
just okay to be that way. Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Like, just to be open, be vulnerable, be yourself. That's it. I feel like you can, especially as that divine feminine. Now, once you stepped into your divine femininity, now, you can be feminine all you want, but that divine femininity, where you don't really need to, I mean, everything, it just seems to just flow. You don't
Mm-hmm.
chase for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You chases for nothing. You have, good relationships, good people around you, your soul tribe. Like, everything just flows to you. And I
Absolutely.
realize that now. You don't chase for anything, for
Well,
nothing.
what happens is you begin to become a magnet of what you
Mhm.
need in your life.
Yes.
That you position yourself through your words, through your actions, through your vibrations, through everything about you, your mindset, specifically your
Mhm.
thought patterns. You start to attract to you everything that you need on a consistent basis. And
Yes.
like everything that you need becomes the bee that is attracted to the honey that you are dripping
Hmm.
through your pores. You know,
Yes.
like all of it goes back to the honey and the bee concept. And
Mhm.
that attraction, that we create.
And people trying to figure it out too. What is it about
Yeah.
her? I don't know what it is. And it's not just the men, it's the women too.
Oh, absolutely.
it's some of the women too. The women are just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what do we need to do to help her? How are we gonna get there? And you're just being you're just yourself.
Right.
You're just
Yes.
presenting yourself, right?
Yes.
You're bringing yourself to the table. Man, listen, I think everyone should practice more of that, even as a divine feminine in a man. That's what gets him the women. That's what gets him what he wants.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
not the masculine energy, it's that feminine
Absolutely.
energy that gets him the
Yep.
woman, gets him the money, gets him the poise, the grace, whatever he needs to be
Yep.
creative and to build a family and to do whatever. It's that a little bit of femininity. It's not by
Or the
force.
fact that maybe he is, or maybe the fact that he is divine feminine.
Because some men are more divine feminine than they are divine
Yes.
masculine.
Yes. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily gay or, any of those
Exactly.
things. So,
They're just more
um,
in tune with that. I ain't gonna lie to you. My husband is in tune with his femininity, his divine femininity, and I think that's what attracted both of us to each other. Is that because I was more in a divine masculine wave and he was more divine feminine? It was just like this. It was like okay, and then now it's starting to switch up a little bit the other way, and we're just like this now.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a
The yin
perfect
to the
balance. It's
yang.
a
Yes,
swing.
all the time now. Like
It's a
it's just like
swing. It's not a
for most
staying at the
times.
same it's not a
Yes,
staying at the same place. It's a swing back and forth. It's a
yes.
pendulum. It's a
Hmm.
pendulum. It's not sitting still. And that's the
Right.
thing about relationships. All right. So we gotta get off of here because we've been on here for almost an hour,
Yes.
and I want to thank the community for coming and listening to the series. After the series that Mal and I have done with Divine Femininity, I have my sister Selena who will be coming on each and every week with us for 4 weeks straight, and we're going to be discussing masked depression in women and how we can use yoni steaming to help heal some of those depression issues and even cope with depression when you're used to, masking it all the time. What it looks like, how to not just get by living through it, and actually deal with it. Get down to the root of the cause. So I'm excited about all these different series that are coming up throughout our time here on this Red Tents podcast. And I'm excited about all the sisters who are thinking in nothing less than a grace me with their presence in these episodes. Thank you, community, for listening. And I'm saying peace until next
God bless you. Good
time.
night.